Hallo miteinander, I'm Geshidi6, and this is Touhou Shoujo, Tale of Beautiful Memories. We have an RPG on our hands that was originally from 2017 and quickly became popular among the Touhou community. It was so popular that 2 years later it received a Steam release translated to English and other languages. I've prepared a young file for us in which we are just about to set out to the human village for the first time. We're going to find out why people are drawn to this title, why I invested over 50 hours into it, and loved every single one of them. Okay, maybe not the 2 I spent grinding for the final boss. The most important thing to mention is that this game is presented in an isometric view. That should give you a clue as to what classic, timeless video game is being spoofed here. You cannot have a Touhou fangame without referencing or parodying something else. It is the law. So which famous isometric game is it? Obviously Snake Rattle and Roll. Not. Only I like that game. In reality, this is the Touhouification of Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. That's why it's usually called Super Touhou RPG. Meanwhile, we have crossed paths with the duo of Mononobe no Futo and Hata no Kokoro. The hermit of those two is, as typical, speaking so archaically it would make Shakespeare sound like a whippersnapper. Example coming up: Heavens, from whence didst thou learn those words? The enlightened girl is not who we need to worry about. She's tolerated in the human village and not causing any trouble. The same can't be said for Kokoro. She is riding a sharpened pogo stick and plans to wreak havoc upon the town with it. Why a pogo stick? Did she play too much DuckTales? No, it's all part of the current incident that turns certain yokai crazy. This early in the game we only have 2 party members, Reimu and Koichi. The latter can summon her sister to analyze the enemy, reading their thoughts, and more importantly, informing us of their hit points. The combat system is turn-based, but just like in Super Mario RPG, you can gain advantages if you press the right buttons at the right time. Koichi just successfully defended because of that. You can also do special commands when you attack. For standard hits, it's just a button press. But certain special techniques want you to mash fast or hold a button and release at the right moment. Getting to know the timing to these commands is really important. Kokoro is proving that. The Menreiki hits hard even if we do succeed on our inputs. The difficulty setting of this file is hard mode. Not only do we suffer more damage through this, all bosses also have 20% more hit points. If you're just playing on normal, this game will seem very tame at first, but its challenge factor will significantly rise as you're getting close to the end. Being almost defeated, Kokoro whips out her Kagura lion mask to put even more pressure on us. Can we land the final blows in time? Sure we can. Even though it took a lot out of us, Kokoro is considered just a mini-boss. The crisis the human village finds itself in is far from banished. Yes, Koichi, the power of friendship you one-sidedly assume you have with Reimu has saved the day. So now we have already gotten a basic impression of the combat system. It's a good one, I like it. Yet there are some aspects about Super Touhou RPG that I appreciate even more. I'll tell you once we've healed up. That's usually Reimu's job. She is pretty much a cleric archetype, like in most Touhou RPGs. So what other feature do I like so much about Super Touhou RPG? Simple, you can jump on any Touhou girl's head and stand on them like they're a footstool. What other Touhou game allows you to make the Shrine Maiden of Paradise seem like a complete nutcase who climbs on top of everyone she encounters? None, I believe. All the girls will react to this sort of harassment with special dialogue. Marissa will, for example, say, "Beat it, Remu." She's very blunt when it comes to that. Sakuya has also come to town, trying to find Remilia's pet chupacabra. That is indeed something she canonically has, as hard as that may be to believe. 2 chapters in Forbidden Scrollery are devoted to the runaway monster. Generally, character depictions and story are very faithful in Super Touhou RPG. Developer The N-Main Shop knows much more about the franchise than the most basic memes. That is another big strength of this game, as much as I like the occasional dumb Touhou meme. We enter another encounter, not a random one. All baddies are engaged either after a cutscene or by walking into them, which is pretty cool. You've heard that Remu is a cleric. Koichi would be more of a warrior. Strong in offense, sometimes in defense too, just never against magic. That battles aren't frequently forced on you, that you can avoid them if you are quick enough, is always welcome. Of course, you should often choose to fight so that you can get gems and experience points. The Tsukumo sisters populate the town theater. They have very nice artwork that really accentuates their, well, memories. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. The N-Main Shop really likes tig ol' biddies. When I first saw the game's trailer video, this made me a little concerned. Don't misunderstand, I am not a prude at all. I only suspected that it was bait to sell a possibly bad product. When someone puts a very exploitative factor in their game, it's often to compensate for a lack of quality, a scheme to take a shortcut. My fears were unfounded. The developer has clearly put maximum effort into Super Touhou RPG. They just wanted to stick ridiculously large milk bags into their customers' faces while they were at it. Except when it's Marissa. You know, I think they might not like Marissa very much. Not only is she among the few that are as flat as a board, but the ordinary magician also isn't recruitable and never amounts to anything. All that gloating about being our rival was just hot air. Whenever you level up, you can assign a small bonus to a stat of your choosing. What you are not explicitly told is that each point in physical and special doesn't just increase the respective offense, but defense as well. Of course, choosing health goes all the way to increasing your survivability. Here's a cool secret. Liberating the theater of all pogo fairies and then approaching Ben Ben grants you a prize. Spiritual capsules are very valuable as they raise maximum SP. You want to feed them all to Remu, as her SP growth from level ups is lower than anyone else's. You're somewhat expected to do this if you want to keep your protagonist effective later on. I know of another spiritual capsule that you can only get while the human village is under siege by fairies. It's here in the Taoist's abode, and we once again have to save its residents. That means fighting more pogo fairies. We're handling this group in the usual fashion, but you might remember that in the theater, we just shot and outright destroyed one of them outside of combat. That is a feature. It can be handy to just skip hard to avoid foes that way, but you don't actually want to do that so often. I'll tell you why in a minute. First, we've got to meet a girl that will shamelessly lounge in front of us. It's the wicked hermit Seiga Nyan Nyan. That's actually what the game calls her. It intrigues me how she keeps her paper charms under those leg strings. It reminds me of a pole dancer that someone slipped money bills to. So about the ability to shoot enemies beforehand. Not only does each amulet you fire drain 1 SP from Reimu, but destroying encounters this way gets you no experience or gems. Super Touhou RPG isn't exceptionally grind heavy, but you should choose to fight properly here and there, so that you're never severely underleveled. Now we're going to have a time warp from being mounted on top of Seiga to a later part of the game. We are now at the Scarlet Devil Mansion, our level has more than doubled, and we've earned 2 more companions, Tenshi and Nitori. The limit of active party members is 3, so Nitori is currently benched. As far as I know, there's no function to swap these reserve characters in mid-battle. I've chosen to warp us to this specific place so that you can see a cute and amusing minigame. Flandre is terrorizing the SDM by having somehow multiplied into more clones than ever before. The new name of her spell card should be Taboo 20 of a kind. We must do some Scooby-Doo grade trickery to avoid detection by this batch of 4. When I first got to this portion, I didn't immediately pick up on that you are supposed to move around, that you need to troll the vampiress. There's a total of 3 rounds to play. If you do get caught, it's not an instant game over. The Flandre who discovered you will doubt herself and try again to confirm. You only have 3 attempts though, then you're forced into a practically unwinnable battle. Gimmicks like these come around regularly in Super Touhou RPG. They're always endearing, never annoying, and make a great counterweight to the core RPG gameplay. It's making the whole experience an even more charming one. Yes, why didn't all 4 clones open all 4 curtains? Tenshinhan divides his strength when multiplying. I guess the Scarlet Sister also divides her intelligence. At the very last second, Remilia bails us out. Making it out of that minigame alive has the added bonus of finding Flan's charm. It's an accessory that greatly raises attack power at the cost of making a character squishier. I think it'll sit well on Koishi. The adjacent chamber is Remilia's luxurious bedroom. That birdcage is where she usually keeps her chupacabra. It's such a nice touch to add that. Really, the great attention to detail in its world is one of Super Touhou RPG's biggest strengths. It's one of the liveliest Gensokyos I've ever seen in a fan game. All characters from Touhou 6 to 15 are present. There's even a few popular PC98 girls to make an appearance. It gets better. Most characters will be found in more than one spot, so you don't get the impression that they're these NPCs who don't lead their own lives. The rampage of many Flandres was just a domestic crisis we accidentally ran into. The real reason Reimu went to the SDM was to wrestle a boundary shard from Remilia. Those shards make up our main quest. We must retrieve all 12 of them. This would be the 4th, so we're in the early mid-game, you could say. That stupid Tenshi. Due to the Celestial's big mouth, we must face the team of both Scarlet Sisters. How about you join our enemies, Tenshi? I mean, if you're so intent on making things harder for us. Anyway, the clash with Remilia and Flandre is what many players consider the first difficulty spike. They're a greater challenge than anyone before them by far, and there are reasons for this. One is that each sister has a special single target attack that is lethal if not perfectly blocked. Well, Tenchi might survive. The role of the Celestial is that of a tank, with the main appeal of being able to buff the stats of her allies and herself. She does this by, for example, serving Heavenly Peaches. Those improve defenses for several turns. Once we scan Flandre, we learn that her hit points are a little lower than those of her sister. It would, however, be a grave mistake to focus our attacks on her. We want to split up our damage. I don't know when to block this attack of Remilia. It can mesmerize someone. That's a status effect that will skip the victim's next turn. It's quite annoying. Our Koishi can inflict that too, with Instinct Release of the id. It often works on Flandre, not this time though, too bad. When Flandre clenched her fist to pop Tenchi's core just then, that was her mentioned insta-killer. Remilia's equivalent is the Gungnir. We're bound to see it sooner or later. With Tenchi's attack buff, Koishi can do some great damage. Not anymore though, I botched the timing. These hard-hitting attacks might seem very punishing to you, but it's not as severe as you might think. Reimu can revive someone for only 10 SP and bring them back to a decent vitality at the same time. If the Shrine Maiden is ever unavailable, you can also use a revival potion for the same effect. The game throws free samples your way at any opportunity. Running out is unlikely. A fallen team member can be a setback, but it's not as damning as, for example, in Labyrinth of Touhou, where you had no in-battle revives whatsoever. Don't mind Koishi just launching Reimu to attack. The throwing mitts weapon is quite abusive to our protagonist. If Reimu happens to be knocked unconscious at the time of use, Koishi will throw a doll replica of her instead. When any of our foes' hit points are reduced to about 50%, the second phase starts. What Flandre means by combining could be underwhelming, it's really just a piggyback ride. Not much changes with this. Each sister is still an independent target with her own action per turn. Only the insta-killer moves change in nature and block timing. I also believe their usage becomes more common. That just then was Remilia's. Spinning around and releasing Flandre at that breakneck speed understandably hurts. It really reminds me of what Mario and Luigi would do in the Superstar Saga games as special moves. I'm pretty sure the brothers had those exact same acrobatics, including vaulting off of one another's piggyback. It has to be a reference. Nostalgia sure is a lovely thing. On that note, I've got to admit I have never played the original Super Mario RPG. It didn't receive a European release back then, and I just did not bother importing in the 90s. I think I even mistook it as being cancelled for the longest time. Later, when the Age of ROMs arrived, I did not get around to catching up on that particular title. I do still have Paper Mario 1 and 2, as well as Superstar Saga 1 and 2 in my cupboard, so it's not like I willfully ignored all Mario RPGs. Nowadays, these games are practically considered the same franchise. Remilia was knocked out, that's exactly how we wanted this to go. Beating Flandre first isn't recommended, as Remilia would grow furious and cast a very strong multi-target spell every turn that is really difficult to out-heal. It's adorable that this rage mode is only available for Emilia, the usually cold and inconsiderate older sister does care for her sibling after all. The fight is over, and so is most of our video. If you defeat the Scarlet Sisters yourself, don't forget that you can then return to the foyer of the SDM to recruit Sakuya. If you trek all the way up to the roof again, you can also speak to Junko, which is going to be important for a later side quest. Overall, Super Touhou RPG has become my new favorite Touhou RPG, on Steam at least. The gameplay in the trailer looked fun enough, but I would have never thought I'd love it as much as I did in the end. With that, I'm Geshe6, this was Touhou Shoujo, Tale of Beautiful Memories. Bis bald!